Welcome to a Q&A with award-winning novelist Toni Morrison. Toni, when and how exactly did your writing career begin?
Well, it all sprouted from when I was in a poet group at Howard. We would write different poems, and of course we would edit with each other, and we would give different advices about how to better our work. One day I came in with a short story, and it was about a little black girl who had the deepest desire to have blue eyes, and she felt incompetent to the white children because she didn't have the same color eyes as they did. She had brown eyes, being African American, of course she would. But it was a short story, so I didn't have the root of it. Later on, after I had had both of my children, I had decided to continue that story. And I finally finished it in 1970. That was the first story that I had ever written.
What do you think it was about Beloved that allowed it to win the Pulitzer Prize in 1988?
Well, before Beloved, there'd never actually been a book that had got down into the core of slavery and how it affects somebody's life. And in Beloved, I exhibit that in the book. I exhibit throughout the entire novel about not only slavery, but how about slavery affects not only those alive, but those that are dead. And in my book, the girl or the main character, Beloved, who is dead, comes back as a ghost, and she takes the form of an older female, even though she died when she was a child. While she's there, she learns about the ways of slavery, and she learns everything, so she starts from anew. And I think Beloved, it really got to that core center of slavery and its effects on not only the lives of others, but the lives of people around them.
Now, Toni, how do you think your upbringing affected who you are today?
Well, I was raised and surrounded by independent, strong black women that didn't let anyone ever speak to them, talk to them down, or put them down, and they never let anybody rise against them. Now I feel as though because I was surrounded by that, it is part of who I became myself. Also, they were the strongest women I've ever known and will know because of what I believe to be their strong connection with God and understanding of death.
Now, Toni, in all your novels, the main characters are African American. What exactly do you think makes you write in that point of view?
Well, as most have heard the famous quote from Mark Twain, write what you know, and that's exactly what I did. I grew up in an Afro-American lifestyle. I learned about the cultures and the traditions, and growing up in that lifestyle, I learned to appreciate them. I guess you could also say that I have a very strong feeling about slavery and African Americans and the segregation. I was born in 1931. There was segregation everywhere. Everybody was racist, it was segregated, people were discriminatory, and I guess at the end of the day, something that leads me to believe why most of my characters are in fact African American is because most people know the meaning of slavery. They know the meaning of it. They don't know the definition of slavery. And so when I write as an African American, I give them that definition, not just the meaning.
What made you use Margaret Garner's life to help you create a storyline?
Well, she was a catalyst to my writing because she was stuck in between a rock and a hard place over choosing her morals or her children's life. She was she was a slave, and her master was going to take her children away from her and sell them into slavery. She didn't want that to happen because she knew what the life was like being a slave. And so she ran away and she hid in a shed with her, and she tried to kill all of her children while she was in that shed. She thought to herself, if I've had this life and I know how difficult it is, I don't want my children to have that life. So what she did, or they had caught her and they trialed her in court. Her trial, of course, though, wasn't attempted murder. It was what the real crime was, which was stolen property. And while she was in trial, all she kept saying, well, she was calm, and the only words that she kept repeating over and over again is that she said, "I will not let them live that life." She didn't want her children to grow up as slaves, and she knew that if they were alive, there was going to be no way that she could prevent them from becoming slaves. So she did what she thought was fit to do in that situation. Now, some quote that I'd like to say when people usually ask me about this topic is that it was the right thing to do, but she didn't have the right to do it.
In past interviews, you described parenthood as the most liberating feeling. Can you please explain?
I feel as though once you become a mother, or once you have children, you become a different person. You don't become yourself, you become a person that you know your children want you to be. Having a child allows you to take that first step that you need to take into into self-discovery, and it allows you to become who you're really meant to be.
Would you have to have the children's father present while raising them?
I mean, yes, I would like to have the children's father there, but I don't regret anything I did, and I have 2 beautiful children to prove that fact. Now, of course, it was a hassle for me as a single mother to be raising 2 children by myself, and while I was raising them, I was also working on the bluest eye. I guess you can say that it was one of the harder things that I've done in life, but it helps me to become the woman that I am today.
Where did the name Toni originate from?
Well, as some of you or most of you may know, Toni is not my real name. My real name is Chloe. While I was writing my first book, The Bluest Eye, the editor of the book was one of my close friends, and her nickname for me was Toni. And so when she was publishing the book, and she had made copies of it, she had put my name on there as the author under Toni Morrison rather than Chloe. And that's basically where it originated from, and since then I decided not to change it because there was a story behind it, and I wanted to share that story.
So what exactly are your views on slavery?
Well, I'm against it, if that's one of the questions that you're asking. But as I said before, I was grown into a Black or African American, or whatever you'd like to call it, culture, and so I knew about it. I wanted people to know about the effects of slavery on African Americans or Blacks, as I say. And if you think about it, there wasn't even so much as a memorial bench for the slaves or their losses during the times that they existed in America until I helped create a memorial bench for them.
There's a famous quote in Sula, one of your novels, that says being good to somebody is just like being mean to somebody, risky. You don't get nothing for it. What exactly does this mean?
Well, it means basically what it says. If you're mean or nasty to somebody, you have to face the consequences that come with your actions. And the same thing goes for when you act good or you do a good deed. Because because even though you may think it was a good deed that you did, it doesn't automatically render it a good deed. And that doesn't mean that there won't be consequences that you have to face for that good deed. And not just consequences, but more of the fact of you won't automatically get praise for that deed that you have done, whether it is a good or a bad deed. And so, even though it may be considered a good deed in your mind, you may have to end up facing consequences because of it. And that's why it's said to be risky.
For our final question, what made you write Beloved? It's said to be one of your most graphic and ghostly novels.
Now, do you remember that woman I told you about, Margaret Garner?
Mm-hmm.
Now, she tried to kill her children so that they wouldn't have to live the same life that she did. I tried to put myself in that position that she was in. Would I have killed my children if I was in that position? But the truth of the matter was, I didn't know. And from this is where Beloved emerged. She was a child that was killed, and then she came back in a in the body of an older woman. She came back with a heart full of remorse and a taste for vengeance.
And now here's Ollie Williams with the Blackie weather forecast. Ollie?
It's gonna rain!